Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Shop 27. I'm your host, Jermaine Coulter. And to the far right, my co-host, Kevin Johnson, KJ. And today's special guest, we have former Central Florida and former University of
Yeah, man.
South Carolina Gamecock quarterback. He was the leading rusher quarterback at UCF, played his freshman year behind Anthony Wright at the Gamecocks. Today's special guest, we have Vic Penn. What's
Ken,
going on,
what's
Vic?
up? What's up now?
Hey guys, how are you today? Thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
For the people that don't know you, let them know where you're from and a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Well, again, my name is Vic Penn, and I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and I played in Dade County, Miami, which is probably one of the toughest high school cities and places to play in the United States. And
Yeah,
um,
right.
I went to Miami High and replaced a great quarterback by the name of Wilkie Perez, who went to West Virginia from there. And I was able to be coached by Tim Ice Harris, and he's probably one of Miami's greatest coaches of all time. He's been around a long time, and I really can't think of too many that have accomplished more in Miami football than he has. So we had a great team. I got to play with a lot of great players at Miami High: Cedric Irvin, Ian Skinner, Carlos Aceguera. Just the list goes on. And from there, I signed a scholarship to the University of South Carolina, the Gamecocks. And
All right.
of course, they had Steve Tannehill as their quarterback, who was leaving as a senior at the time, and Anthony Wright, who ended up going on and having a great, prominent NFL career. Anthony was the starter, and I came in as basically third string. But I redshirted my first year, and in the off season, our backup Chad Barnhart transferred to University of South Florida, and I actually just read in the paper that I was now the number 2 quarterback, which is a big difference versus the number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, it's
You
true.
know, so I started off calling the plays and signaling in everything to Anthony, and I was able to be coached by some great coaches there also. Brad Scott and John Reeves
Yeah, Brad
was
Scott. Yeah.
Brad Scott and John Eason, and mainly, my primary quarterback coach was John Reeves, and he was a Florida Gator quarterback, and he actually set the NCAA passing yardage record back in the 70s as a Florida Gator.
Yeah.
And he held that record for a long time until I think Danny Werfel came in and beat him and took a spot another Gator. But they ran an offense that was comparable to what Florida State was running with Charlie Ward and Danny Cannell and those guys. So I was able to play there, and against Tennessee, it was Peyton Manning's. Let me know if I'm talking too much, or if you have other questions, or if I should just
Go
keep
ahead, do
going.
your thing. Go ahead, man.
Okay.
We gonna come in and ask our questions. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I was the backup for most part. I got in some mop-up duty, at the end of the games. And against Tennessee in Neyland Stadium, there was about 110,000 people at this game because it happened to be Peyton Manning's final home game of his career. And it was raining. I don't even think I had my ankles taped. And there was no way I was going to be playing until, fourth quarter maybe. But Anthony, unfortunately, had a season-ending knee injury I think it was the end of the first, start of the second quarter of that football game. So I got thrown into action there when the game was still, on the line, and we ended up losing, I think 22-7. But I was able to throw a touchdown pass, and then the following week I was a bye week, and then had 2 weeks to prepare for the defending national champion Florida Gators, because they won it in '96 and they were the defending national champions. So I made my first start against them, and we played pretty well for 3 quarters. And Fred Taylor came in that fourth quarter, and he must have rushed for about 500 yards. I think it was about 100 and something, at least 200 in the fourth quarter alone. And they ended up beating us. But, after that game, we had the big South Carolina versus Clemson rivalry on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'm
I
sure
know that.
you remember. So we had a great first half. and we'll leave it at that. But
It's okay.
it was good, and I got a lot of playing time, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of learning, and a lot of experience. And at the conclusion of that season, I was honored with the 1997 All-SEC Freshman Quarterback of the Year, which today sounds pretty good. So just phenomenal teammates, and our coaching staff kind of got dismantled there at the end of that season, and Coach Reeves and Coach Easton went different routes. And I just thought that it was best for me to look at other places. I have nothing against South Carolina. I love that place to death. Still my teammates today.
Oh, yeah.
And coaches. But I ended up leaving South Carolina and transferring to a junior college in Garden City, Kansas for 1 year, because when you go Division I to Division I, you have to sit out a year. That's right. So Coach Jim Gush out at Garden City called me up. He said, "Hey, don't sit out a year. Come out here and play. You get to go through your recruiting process again. You take your 5 visits again, just like you're coming out of high school." So that's what I did, and I went out to Kansas and played there for a year, which was difficult. Coming from an SEC school and playing in front of 90,000 people to a junior college in Kansas,
like high school.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult. All the games were in the evening, and but we still had a good time. We went 9-3, won a bowl game, and met some great people there, great coaches there. And then that's when I ended up coming back to UCF after that for my final 2 years. Dante Culpepper was just now leaving. They didn't have really anybody with any experience to fill the shoes. And Coach Scott Fountain called me. He was a recruiter and an offensive line coach. And they had a tremendous schedule the 99 year. It was Purdue, Florida, Georgia Tech, Georgia were the first 4 games of the year. And then we had Auburn, Bowling Green, and some other teams at Louisiana Tech. So I wanted to come back home, being from Miami and being out in Kansas for a year at that young of an age. They called, and it just seemed like a right fit. And I knew some of the players on the team already from, playing in Miami in high school. And I ended up playing 2 years at UCF and being coached by, in my opinion, one of the best offensive minds in football, which is Mike Kruzak at UCF. He was Terry Bradshaw's backup as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and he's got 2 Super Bowl rings that he wears. And
that says a lot right there.
Yep, he came in and as a rookie and won 6 straight games as a Steeler, and really taught me the game of football differently than anybody had ever taught me up till that point. And it was very comparable to the way Peyton Manning played the game, where you came up to the line of scrimmage and you saw what the defense was giving you pre-snap, and you anticipated and looked at a few key indicators, what they were going to drop into post-snap. So if you had a play called that was going to be stopped by their defense, you had to get out of the bad play and get into a play that had a chance of being successful. And it was solely on the quarterback's shoulders to audible, change the play. He coached it. We knew what to look at, and we would put our team as best we could in a position to have a play that was going to beat the defense that they were going to end up in post-snap of the football. So it was a little bit different than any other way that I had played in my career, and it was really an eye-opening experience, and very happy that I chose UCF and had that experience to play under him. And we had some great games. And I think I finished 12th in the nation in total offense at UCF. We were just a few years into, being Division I at UCF at that time. But they've come a long way, and they're considered one of the powerhouse schools now in Florida. And it's been a fun and a pleasure to have been a part of that building process.
Cool. For everybody watching, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. We have legendary quarterback, University of Central Florida, and former Gamecock, Vic Penn. Go ahead, KJ, ask your question.
Man, take us back to your childhood. Now, what age you started playing football, and was football your first love?
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in Miami in Homestead, just at the the southern tips of Miami, right by the Florida Keys. And I didn't play football until high school. I played baseball all my career, but I played football every single day with the kids in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
I never played organized football until high school, but every day football was my love. I always I would sleep with the football, under my arm. I love the smell of the leather. If there was nobody to play catch, which I would throw it up in the air and just catch it myself.
That's right.
And I didn't play football until my freshman year in high school, and I put the pads on all wrong, and then had a helmet and
pads on wrong.
Yeah, it was a different experience, but I adapted quickly, and I always loved to play quarterback, and I ended up being a quarterback and staying there and doing all right. It was a lot of fun, but I learned a lot in Miami with those kids growing up playing football. We would play tackle in the grass and tag in the streets, but you guys know, so we'd get hit, and I think it toughened me up a little bit.
Oh yeah, you still get bloody a little bit.
Oh, no doubt, absolutely. So it was a lot of fun there, and that's where I really learned to play football. Plus, throwing with my dad. My dad was always on my side, and we'd go out there and throw. And I had a couple brothers that would be out there with us, and that's really where I learned the game of football. But an interesting story is I was always thought of as having a quick release. And I was actually compared a little bit to Marino in the way that I threw. And it was not that I moved my arm fast or more quickly than anybody else, or it was a karate instructor that kind of opened my eyes to this when I was with my dad and my brother was doing the karate. We happened to be there one day. And the karate punch is thrown from the shoulder, and they step to the left as they throw the right.
Okay.
Right. So the football throw, the quick release, if you watch Marino, it's that step to the left and the turn of the, it's not stepping towards the receiver and coming over the top. So that's really how I got the scholarship to South Carolina. Was I sent a video to every school of comparing myself to Marino with the quick release.
Okay.
From a karate instructor that kind of opened my eyes to that. And I was tiny though. I mean, I'm 190 pounds now, but when I played there at South Carolina, I was about 175 max. Even as a senior at UCF, I was 175. Yeah. So, I put some insoles and on my boots, and I think I wore a pair of sweatpants under my jeans. And when the coaches came down to meet me, I was all bulked up and shook his hand, and
that's how you do it.
I got a scholarship, and I'm very thankful for that, because it was. It's quite a ride when you have two different universities that you've played for. You don't realize it at the time when you're transferring, but at our age now, and you're looking back, and you've got this whole set of guys at South Carolina and this whole nother group of guys over at UCF, and of course the group of guys there at Garden City in my junior college. You really have a nice, warm, feeling, and you just have brothers. You guys know how it is, and it's just guys that you went to war with and played with, and it's been fun to have had a couple different teams in college to look back on.
Yeah. So what offense did you run down in Dade County? I know you guys ran a wing tee, a pro set, or shotgun. What type of offense did you run?
Well, we ran, this is true. I mean, we had a very nice coaching staff and a very sophisticated offense. But we played like this. All right, Skinner, it's your turn. Run the post. Because we were so good, and these athletes were so good at Miami High that they were open. I don't care if there was a free safety dropping back in the cover three. Skinner was going to beat him on the post. We had Cedric Irvin was our running back who played at Michigan State, and we'd be winning 40-0, and we'd have guys that were upset because they haven't scored a touchdown yet. So we have, but to answer your question, exactly right. So we ran the ball, and we had a little bit of everything. We ran the lead and the lead draw pass. Ced was just phenomenal and could take it. I mean, I've never seen a running back take it to the house more than Cedric Irvin. He just seemed to be able to get to the end zone no matter where we were on the field. But then we could line up in quads and have 4 wide receivers out of shotgun and throw the ball. We had a really nice 2-minute drill out of two receivers on each side with running back. And we could run the ball. We could play action pass out of a pro set. And we didn't run too much option out of Miami High. Coach Ice Harris liked to throw the ball, though. He did like to throw it, and he liked to make big plays. That was his saying. You know, after every huddle break, we would always say, "Make big plays." And Miami High was all about making big plays, and we did that, in different ways. And a lot of times it was just like, "Okay, Skinner, we'll throw on the post. We'll hit you on a touchdown real quick," And boy, if I, got sacked or threw it too high, it wasn't good. But it all worked out, and we had some guys get scholarships to Florida State. I was South Carolina. Said was Michigan State. We had a couple go to West Virginia, and we really had some serious talent there at Miami High.
All right. Cool. So at Miami High, what type of rivals you guys had at the time? I know it's a lot of good high schools there. You probably played against a lot of NFL players during your era that probably went to plenty of D1 schools. So talk about your division, your conference, your rival, and some of the players that you played against down in Miami-Dade County.
Absolutely. Well, I spent 1 year at Southwest, which is another school in Miami, my 10th grade year. And I had to end up transferring to Miami High to further my football career. But my good childhood friends were on Southwest, and I had to, play against them twice. Like playing against your best friend when he's a defensive lineman, Donnie March. He's now the head coach at Southwest High School. But when you're playing against your best friend, who's the D lineman, and you're the quarterback, and you're hanging out with them the night before, or not the night before, but the weekend before or whatever, it was fun. But our main rival at Miami High was Miami Northwestern, the Bulls. Okay. And on Facebook today, they're a great group of guys, but they beat us our junior year, and we ended up beating them our senior year. But Northwestern was just Willie Goldsmith. Coach Goldsmith was their head coach and phenomenal coach, and he ran a great program over there. And the Northwestern Bulls were definitely our rival, but they were not in our district. Our district was, Columbus, Southwest, Killian. We always won our district. And Southridge and Killian are two other really good schools down there. And we went 10-0 in my senior year, and we were blowing everybody out. We beat Northwestern. We beat Southridge. And we got into the first round of the playoffs against Miami Killian. And they were beating us by 5 points with about a minute left, and they had the ball first round of the playoffs. And we were thinking, man, this is not good. We're going to lose, and we didn't lose. And they throw a pass for some reason, and we intercepted it. And we got the ball at our own 20 with less than a minute to play. And everybody in that stadium, everybody on that field knew that we were going to win this game. We got the ball back, and we drove down to their 1 yard line. It was first and goal from their 1 yard line. And the greatest defensive goal line stand in the history of football, in my opinion, happened. We gave the ball to Cedric Irvin 4 times in a row, and they stopped us 4 times in a row. And we lost that game at the 1 yard line. And it was a tough way to lose your high school career, because I really wanted to continue to play and win state. And I think Northwestern won it that year. Okay. There are tons and tons of schools in Miami, and I was lucky enough to play at Miami High, Stingaree, and it was some great athletes that we had. And losing that game to Killian. Now on Facebook now, it's fun because there's a lot of guys on Killian that you're friends with, and you guys know how it is. You mix and match, and you get to know people kind of on Facebook versus you see the faces really, and you can talk about the games. I happen to have just a ton of game tape. My dad was kind enough to film them for me. When I played, he'd be in the stands with the little, it's probably about this big back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. VHS.
Right. And they're all VHS, right? They're all VHS. So Cedric Irvin, about a year ago, called me up and he said, "Hey, do you have any of those game tapes?" I said, "I think I got just about all of them." So he's like, "I need those." He's got 2 sons, and one son's Cedric Jr. is getting ready to go either Notre Dame or Oregon. He's getting recruited by Florida State and all these big schools. And I put up, just a highlight of Ced, and I was going to make him the copies and get him the games. But then it just, every teammate came from everywhere. "Hey, where's my play? Where's my play? Where's my play? Where's my play?" I mean, tight ends that had, catches,
like highlight reel.
So the next thing I knew, I was sitting there, putting up play after play after play. But then the guys at Northwestern were like, "Hey, do you have our game? Can you send me my plays from the different school?"
Yeah.
So, being the good sport that I am, I did, send those guys some tapes of them playing, and it's been a lot of fun. And that's really where I came up with the idea of the virtual QB training, because I started without even knowing. Former players were bringing me their 15-year-old son who's a quarterback, and they're saying, "Take a look at this," and they would send me the film, and I'd say, "No, I got to see a 3-step, a 5-step, to the left and to the right. Can you give me a 3-step and a 5-step?"
Yeah,
and I started making correctional videos and saying, "No, you're holding the ball here. You got to be up here. You're dropping it as you throw," and things like that. And they started working. These sons of my former teammates were improving by me making them videos. And it was right when the COVID thing started and everything was on lockdown. And so I started the virtual QB training, and I've trained my share of quarterbacks virtually, and they all have improved, and they've all gotten better. And it's been a lot of fun to be able to get back into football in that capacity, because I'm a financial advisor and I haven't really been in football for a few years. So to get back with the virtual QB training, to be able to do it just one-on-one and not have to worry about winning or losing games, or traveling or getting fired, or bus rides or after school snacks or whatever, it's been a lot of fun to be able to just train the quarterbacks and focus on them, and I'm able to watch film with them out of different states, Iowa, Virginia, and they'll send me their game tapes and I can critique them for them, just in a manner like this with the conference, and they can record them and watch their game tapes being broken out. I work with their coaches also, get to know them, and they I learned the terminology of that particular offense so I don't confuse the quarterback. And it's really been an amazing experience teaching these quarterbacks and showing them some things that I've learned from some really great coaches, and to give back to them in the game of football.
Oh yeah. Hey, did you play any all-star games, anything like that? Right after
in high school, I did. I played in the North-South game, I think it was. I played in the all-star game where Willie Goldsmith from Northwestern was my head coach, and that was an experience. And I ended up meeting Kenny Clark there, who became one of my receivers at Central Florida later on, a few years later. Mm-hmm. But we lost, I think, to the North team. I think it was 21-14 in the All-Star game. But it was we went up to Jacksonville, and we had about a week of practice, and then we played. And it was a good game. It was raining out, which kind of stinks if you're a quarterback. But, it was a good experience.
All right, cool. So you go into the recruiting process. You have a line of schools coming at you, getting letters from left and right. What schools are asking you to, commit to them? How many visits did you take, and why did you choose South Carolina?
Well, the school that was really hot on me at first was Purdue, and Purdue recruited me. They came down actually, and they watched me practice one day for the entire practice. And about 3 or 4 days later, I received a letter in the mail that said, "Dear Vic, we think you throw the ball as well as anybody we've seen. Unfortunately, we think you're too small and you're not going to be able to take the hits that a college quarterback needs to take without getting injured or hurt." And they ended up signing this guy. I don't know if you ever heard of him. I think his name is Drew Brees. They signed this.
Yep.
They signed this guy named Drew Brees, and the rest is history there. But Purdue, up until that point, I was being recruited by Florida State, who ended up signing 2 other guys, and University of South Carolina was one. I was talking with Clemson a little bit, back in the day, and Cincinnati, University of Connecticut was one. Some smaller schools. And I think West Virginia was recruiting me there for a while. I really wanted to go to Florida State and play in that system. And I didn't know too much at the time about the University of South Carolina. I'm from Miami. I was, a Hurricanes fan, and my dad went to Notre Dame, so I was a Notre Dame fan. So I didn't really know too much about South Carolina Gamecocks. But when I saw Tannehill play, and and they came down, and I realized that these coaches were the coaches at Florida State when Charlie Ward and J.D. Cannell were, winning championships and Heisman trophies and things like that. It really opened my eyes, and was able to watch Anthony Wright play there before he got hurt, and still talk with him today. Phenomenal quarterback, a lot of respect for him. And he went about 11 years, I think, or so in the NFL after that, and was able to learn from him and Coach Reeves and get some really good playing time there at South Carolina, which kind of propelled me over there to UCF.
All right. We'll have some clips right here we can take a look at your freshman year at University of South Carolina. I believe it was against Florida or either Tennessee. Let's check it out.
You see, it has absolutely no impact on him.
Well, I think of when I look at Peyton Manning, will the New Orleans Saints get the #1 draft choice as we watch Kelly?
Jermail Kelly with the touchdown.
Boy, what a pretty throw there by Victor Penn. Led him just perfect. And look at Penn. Thank goodness I had a little bit of time to look. I had a little bit of time to pass rush.
23 yards, the reception for Jermail Kelly.
Now watch this. This is in the box. Quarterback to the left. And there's Kelly running that that quarter pattern. And look at the position that Penn throws that ball. Just perfect. Right exactly where Kelly needed that football.
Just past Mickey Allen, the sophomore from Murfreesboro, who was in the game defending.
Nice pass. Nice pass.
Thank you. That was Jermail Kelly. Oh, yeah. Jermail Kelly, that receiver there, got him on the corner route.
Yeah, that's a DB nightmare right there, man, for real. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, what is your favorite pass to throw anyway?
It's that corner route. I think it's the corner route because I like the corner route because it's an easier angle for the quarterback to throw, in my opinion. Throwing the post route, it's really the same thing, but you have more field, and in the quarterback's mind, it's a tougher throw, and a lot of times you'll see them underthrow it or throw it behind. But that corner route is great because if they run cover 2, you can still get that corner in there if the defensive corner jumps up.
Gotta go up high.
Yeah, you can do, and you can still get it versus man-to-man. It's a great play. It's a great route versus man-to-man. So that corner route was definitely one of my favorites to throw, and we threw the heck out of it at UCF.
Oh yeah, man.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Yep. So you guys went on to play against Florida Gators, and you had some plays there. You seemed like you were a great quarterback in improvising and extending the play and throwing the ball downfield. Pretty good throwing on the back foot as well. I've seen just watching your highlights. Let's take a look at this play completion of Boo Williams.
Yeah, did you see Rutledge get blocked and get back up and make a play? Williams saved 32 yards on the ground. 3rd down, 5, Carolina. Then misdirection. Pressure. Throws the one complete to Williams. He's got a first down. Johnny Rutledge had him by the ankles, but Williams stretches out for the first down.
Yeah, off the back foot.
Oh, Boo Williams. Yep, that was not really how we drew it up in the classroom, but
exactly.
It was 3rd down and Boo got open, and I saw him made something happen. He got the first down.
That's right. Dang.
Yep. Cool.
Good job.
So
Boo.
when you get to South Carolina, who's the first player that embraced you? Say, hey man, welcome to the University of South Carolina. We're glad to have you. Was it a coach, a player, a
You know who it was, and I remember it.
Who was it?
I walked into Coach Reeves' office when I first got there. I was with my mother and my father, and Darren Hambrick. I don't know if you remember Darren Hambrick. He was a middle linebacker, and he came from Florida. He was a Gator first, and then he transferred over to South Carolina. He was wild. He was flamboyant and loud and tough and mean looking, and he just had the look. And he was tall and big. And he was in Coach Reeves' office, and he was the first player and he used to call me Joe Kane from that movie, The Program. And he'd be on the other side of the line. Come on, Joe Kane, come on. And, I'm a little, I'm a freshman. I don't know what the heck I'm doing out there. But he would, it was Darren Hambrick, as a matter of fact. And he was in Coach Reeves' office, and he gave me a little, shaking and a little hug, and then he left. And we ended up talking with Coach Reeves, but I'll never forget D-Ham and his ability to get people motivated around him was, top notch. He could take a player that could tell that he didn't really want to practice that day and was kind of moping around, and he'd get that player fired up by the time that, practice came around. So Darren Hambrick was the one that approached me first.
Yeah. Hey, so how was the energy in the Gamecock Stadium, man, when you was playing in front of that large crowd?
It's great. The way that we come out onto the field with 2001, I believe, and with the smoke it gives you goosebumps when you're there, and it really gets you ready to play the game. And it's the crowd. I think it's sold out every year, and there's just phenomenal support there for the Gamecocks each and every week. It's die-hard football as best as I can describe it. And I didn't know that when I was a little kid in Miami getting ready to go there, and then coming up in that Clemson, South Carolina rivalry is as big a rivalry in that state as to anybody in the nation. I mean, if they could lose the first 9-10 games, and then who won the South Carolina Clemson game? Who won the South Carolina Clemson? I mean, the mayor, the governors, everybody.
Everybody
at the games. And our first year, we beat Clemson. I was redshirting. Anthony was playing, and we had a running back named Deuce Staley, who was phenomenal. Deuce Staley was phenomenal. Yeah. And we ended up beating Clemson in '96, I think it was. And I mean, y'all's crowd just came onto the field when we won, and they weren't happy because they had just lost. So it wasn't like we were cheering with them.
Yeah,
they were ripping my, wristbands and taking my helmet, and we had to get back into the locker room because the whole crowd came out. What is a tremendous game. If you want to watch a good game, watch that YouTube on that Clemson, South Carolina, '96, I believe it was. And Anthony had a great game, and we ended up winning it. And the entire crowd came out onto that field after the game, and you can still see it on YouTube.
Hard to get to the locker room, wasn't it?
It was, but I'm telling you, you want to get there quick because the fans were not happy.
Yeah,
exactly. So talk about what it was like having Arturo Freeman in the locker room as well. He went to our high school back in the day. I know he was
Arturo was a phenomenal athlete. In that Florida game that you were showing, I think he had 2 interceptions. Arturo was right down the hall from me in where our dorms were. And Arturo would always come into my room and just kind of was a leader, at all times. And he would come in and just kind of talk to me and make sure I was okay. And if I needed anything, and give me some tips. Having Arturo as a leader on our team was great because you always knew you could always count on him. You knew he was not going to be late. You knew he was going to be in class. You knew he was going to be at practice. You knew he was going to have 2 picks against the Gators. You knew he was going to put us in position. You know he was going to tackle that guy, as the last resort when he's going all the way. He was going to get him at the 5, give our defense another chance. He wasn't going to let him score. Arturo was a phenomenal athlete and a great leader and a great guy all around. And he ended up playing in the NFL for quite some time also. And he deserved it because and he had the size too. He had just phenomenal size and speed that he was gifted. But I'll tell you who was really someone who came out of nowhere that was recruited with us at South Carolina was Jonathan Abraham. And Jonathan Abraham was a defensive end. If you go look up his stats as an NFL, I mean, he's right up there with Lawrence Taylor in sacks and forced fumbles, with the best of the best of the best that ever played. Yeah, and he, in my opinion, he should be in the Hall of Fame because his numbers are there. And watching him play as a defensive end, he was running a 4.45, you know, as a freshman at South Carolina at 6'4", you know, whatever he is, 6'4", 250, 260.
Oh, yeah.
And he was moving, and that guy was a dominant force as a defensive end, had a great NFL career.
Nice, man.
You also had Terry Cousins at cornerback on your team, and
we had Terry
a couple
Cousins.
other guys.
Yeah, you know, I just watched one of your shows last night, and we had Corey Bridges.
All
was
right.
one of our receivers. He was, I think he was a fifth-year senior when I was just a freshman. So we didn't really converse too much or, you know, get to know each other too well. But what a phenomenal athlete he was at South Carolina. You know, he was just solid. And I listened to his podcast when he was on last night, and it was good to see old Corey doing well.
Yeah, man.
He may not even remember who I am. I think he does.
He remembers.
We only had 1 year together. You know, guys like Terry Cousins and Corey Bridges and Marcus Robinson was another great receiver we had there. And Deuce Staley, running back, was phenomenal. Really some good talent on that South Carolina team. But those guys were fifth-year seniors, and I was a freshman, third-string redshirted quarterback. And, you know, we never got too much time to play together or be on the same field at the same time. But what great athletes, all great guys. And it's an honor to have played with talent like that and you know, on teams like that. And I never really expected it growing up, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So you leave South Carolina, you go to UCF, you know, out of all you went to a JUCO first or a Division II school, then you go to UCF. Talk about that transition right there from going to a Division I, going to a JUCO, and then going back to a Division I 2A.
Like I said earlier, it was tough going from South Carolina, who's playing in front of large crowds, and I played against Tennessee, Florida, and Clemson, were my three really starts that year, and 90,000, 110,000, you know, people in the stands, being on TV, going back to a junior college in a town that's far, far away. It's cold and muddy and rainy, and they're playing at 7:30 at night, and it was very difficult to get up for that game because you're watching the Gators play and South Carolina play, and you're watching your old teammates, and you're watching these big games all day on TV, and then you're like, oh, you know, I wanted to be there. So, but it was tough that year, but I was able to adapt, and I ended up, you know, making some great friends there and some great teammates and meeting some great coaches. Donnie Simmons and Jim Gush were two outstanding coaches who've moved on to bigger things, you know, as the years went on. But looking back on it, it was all great because I was able to learn different types of offenses, different systems, all by, you know, professional coaches and professional people and players that were involved. But when UCF called me and said Purdue, Florida, Georgia Tech, Georgia, Auburn, I knew I was going to be playing some big games. I knew that Culpepper was leaving. He is going to Minnesota, you know, and they didn't have anybody. And he had been their quarterback for 4 straight years, did a phenomenal job there. And I knew I could come in and have a chance to start and play some big games. And I did. And I didn't really know too much about Mike Kruzak, our head coach, who was also our offense coordinator. But after the first meeting, when he got on that chalkboard and started drawing stuff up and explaining it the way that he explained it, it blew my mind. Because I told him, I said, if I'd have known this kind of stuff when I was at South Carolina, I would have been that much better. Because, man, does that make sense. And to be able to look at a defense, and there's always key indicators. Somebody gives it away. When they stay in cover 2, his foot is here. When they drop into cover 3, his foot is here. You know, like little things like, and you're able to see and know that they're going to drop into a cover 3 and then call a route that's going to beat the cover 3. you know this guy's blitzing, and you're picked up. To be able to call a play that was going to beat the defense that they were going to end up in, and successfully just throw the ball down the field. And we had big games. I think I threw for about 380 versus the Gators and 3 touchdowns. Big games versus Georgia. We almost beat Georgia. We lost 24-23. Some really close. We ended up beating Alabama the following year on their homecoming. And if you YouTube UCF the kick, you'll see that Javier Berlegui comes in and kicks that kicks that field goal. And we ended up beating Alabama the following year on their homecoming, which nowadays it's, you can say we beat Alabama. And to be able to say that is great when you're just, in an elevator. And I ended up living in Alabama for a little bit, and they had, Alabama hats on, and they're Roll Tide, and they're very serious about their football. And they got one of the greatest programs that ever existed. And then I can say, hey, that's great. But we ended up beating them, in 2000 on their homecoming. And we'll be able to say that for the rest of our lives. So it was great to be a part of that also.
All right. Well, I have some footage right here. Go ahead, KJ.
I was just about to ask him about how was the bowl games, man. But
okay. I was going to show him the footage from.
Yes, we'll do that.
All right, let's go into this footage for UCF. I think you guys played against Georgia on this one.
Mm-hmm. 4th down and 3. UCF's final shot to stay alive. Penn out of the shotgun, backing up, looking, under a heavy rush, throws, it's complete, and a first down, and he got out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Did he get out of bounds? They've stopped the clock, at least to move the change. He did not get out of bounds. As soon as they set those chains, the clock will start rolling again.
His forward motion, basically, you see right here, his forward motion was stopped. Good job right here by the quarterback again, stepping up, delivering the ball, and watch right here. The reason he doesn't get out of bounds is because his forward motion was stopped before he went out of bounds.
Clock is running. They'll spike the ball. Stop the clock with 42 seconds.
Nice.
All right. So you're in the 2-minute offense right there. Talk about that a little bit against Georgia. I guess Champ Bailey was on the field at the time, right?
We had just the 3 previous games was Purdue, Florida, and Georgia Tech. And so this was now playing Georgia. And they were number 9. I think Quincy Carter was their quarterback. And I think they were number 9 in the nation at that point. And we lost 24-23. That was the final drive. We ended up going all the way down to their 19-yard line on that drive that we just that you just showed.
Okay.
And we got down to their 19, which is plenty, field goal range. But we elected to throw a fade route to Kenny Clark and just take a shot to see if we could put it away. Our offense was the strong team that, we were on fire. We were connecting. So we threw the fade, and they called us, and y'all know we had to beat the officials too. In that game, they called an offensive pass interference on Kenny and backed us up 15 yards. So from the 19, the ball was thrown out of bounds. I didn't want to, have an interception or something stupid. So either Kenny was getting it or nobody was getting it. And there was a slight infraction out of bounds. The ball was out of bounds. Should have been a no call, but they called Kenny with an offensive pass interference. On the next play, I throw another 15-yard out to Tavarius Davis, who catches it on the out and brings us back down to the 19-yard line. Not enough men on the line of scrimmage. Called us a penalty on that one too. So the referees with 2 back-to-back penalties in that game, they call it the burglary between the hedges, because we were supposed to beat Georgia that game and shock the world, but we didn't. We lost 24-23, and I hit fullback Paige Sessoms on the previous drive, which was supposed to make it 24-24, but we shanked the extra point, and it hit the upright, and it remained 24-23. But we got the ball back, did the final drive, got called for 2 penalties that, in my opinion, were not really penalties. There's a little bit of but the ball was out of bounds. They call offensive pass interference. If anything, it should have been defensive pass interference. Oh, yeah. And then I've talked to some people and some coaches since then, and they've been at dinners and things of that nature where they've, been in the same room with those referees. And even the referees admitted to a little bit of, home cooking there for Georgia. and we ended up losing 24-23. But what a great memory and a great time and a great game. Thanks for sharing those clips.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, back to my question before the video. So how was the bowl games during your time?
I didn't play. I played in one bowl game. And that was at it was the Valley of the Sun Bowl, and that was in junior college. The other years we didn't have enough wins or we had enough wins, but they picked another team. I think there are a lot more bowl games now than there were back then. But I never got to play in a bowl game. But I did play one in junior college. It was in Mesa, Arizona, the Valley of the Sun Bowl, which we won. And that was a great experience. It was JUCO ball, but still a lot of great athletes who played in that junior college also.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I have another clip here with your scrambling ability. I see you were a leading rusher in one of those games. Just take a look at that film real quick, okay?
One of these times I'm going to make that. I think I landed at the 5-yard line. I was about to go all the way. That guy clipped me. And son of a gun, one of these days I'm going to high step. I'm going to Michael Irvin high step him. And
yeah, you got to get those knees up. Yeah, you do.
Exactly.
The high knees. Yeah, you got to be skipping the end zone.
And I wasn't a runner, but
good run.
Thank you. But Coach Kruzak saw something in their defense, and he said, we can run these quarterback draws. And I broke another one later in that game, and I ended up rushing for 122 yards. And that was in 1999.
Okay.
And I didn't know it at the time, but I became the first UCF quarterback to ever rush for over 100 yards in a football game. And Dante had the record previously at 98, and I hit 122. And to this day, nobody's broken that record. No quarterback has rushed for more than 122 in a game. And 20 some odd years later.
Nice.
So when a quarterback starts to get close, I like it when they get close to the record, because then I get a little TV time, and they start mentioning the record and the name. But I think Mackenzie Milton against Auburn had like 116, 117. One guy got to 120, but I still have the record, and hopefully I can keep it, but it's fun to have that record, and it didn't even know it at the time that I was doing it, but it stood 20 some odd years later.
Okay, so you leave University of Central Florida. Did you go to a pro day? Did you go to the combines? Talk about that a little bit.
I didn't go to the combines, but I wasn't invited. But I did try out for some Florida teams. But I'll tell you what happened is I was referred to a sports agent, and I called up the sports agent and I said, "Hey, Mr. Sports Agent, this is Vic Penn from UCF." He said, "Vic Penn, I'll call you back in 5 minutes." And he hung up the phone. And about a minute and 30 seconds later, my phone rang. I said, "Hello." He goes, "Mr. Penn, you're not an NFL quarterback." And he hung up the phone. And I said, "Okay." He told me, because I was 175 pounds. It wasn't my height; it was my weight. And when we played Clemson that year, I was beat up pretty badly after that game. My back was swollen and purple, and it had a knot like 2 fists on my back here. They beat me up pretty badly. And the NFL, you're probably right. 175 pounds, 6'1", 175 pounds was extremely light for a quarterback. And
how heavy was Doug Flutie?
But Flutie was probably shorter than I was, but he was heavier. He's probably 205, 215.
Wow,
at 175, they just really never gave me a chance at all in the NFL. But I did, go to the CFL and play also arena football, and had a lot of fun doing that. And probably to this day, probably thankful I didn't play in the NFL, because I think they would have beat me up pretty badly. Those guys are, it's no joke. And I was tiny. We'd walk in, to places, and everybody thought I was the kicker automatically. I was the kicker, Okay.
Yeah.
But I had more room on the airplanes though than most guys. So, These guys, I don't know.
Yeah. You just walk down the aisle. So talk about your time in the CFL and what team did you play for? And how,
I played for the BC Lions, and was interesting story. I was Damon Allen. Damon Allen was their quarterback, and he was about 40 at the time, and he had been a CFL veteran for a long time. Marcus Allen's little brother.
Okay.
And Damon Allen was our quarterback, so I got to play with him. And at the conclusion of that season, I ended up playing arena football and came back to the United States. And it was only there for a short time there in Canada. I was the BC Lions, who were coming off the Grey Cup victory, and the Canadian League is a little bit different, as you guys know. Then there's 12 men on the field. They only have 3 downs, so so if you don't get something on first down, now you're at second down and long, and on third down you're punting. It's a little different, and they have all of their wide receivers can come in motion towards the line of scrimmage. In arena ball, you got that one guy coming full speed towards the line of scrimmage, but
we talked about that.
5 wide receivers coming towards the line of scrimmage at the same time. And as a quarterback, you got to make sure you get timing up, because one guy's faster than another, and one guy's doesn't want to jump off sides, and he's a little different. The field's longer and bigger. They still have the goalpost right there, smack dab in front of the end zone, where you can run into it. But it was fun. It was a great learning experience, and I enjoyed the town out there and the people that I met. It was a lot of fun to be in the Canadian Football League. But when I ended up getting a different sports agent and got me into arena football, where I met some great coaches, was able to play with guys like Jay Gruden, who was John Gruden's little brother, and who's now coaching in the NFL, and has been for some time now. A great offensive mind. Another offensive mind that I was able to learn from was Jay Gruden. It all worked out, and everything happens for a reason, as you all know. And I had my time playing football, and luckily I didn't have any serious injuries. And I'm able to look back on it today and be thankful for that tremendous experience, as you all know.
Yeah. So talk about life after football.
Okay. Well, I'm a financial advisor, and for the last 15 years, we've been helping veteran families get a benefit from the VA called Aid and Attendance. And we're talking about World War II veterans, Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans, people who are in their 80s and 90s. We help their families. We work with their families, and the VA makes it very difficult when they have to go into assisted living or need the assistance of another person with dressing and bathing and showering and using the bathroom and eating, things like that. The VA will pay up to $3,071 per month, but they have a very long list of qualifying events that have to take place in order for them to receive that benefit. So we have to rearrange their estates, rearrange their finances, shift it there, make it look there, do that there, all legally, ethically, and morally, so that when we apply to the VA, the veteran family receives that money to help them pay for that type of long-term care, which is really expensive. When you're talking about the care of another person, watching another person 24 hours a day, and being right there, it's very expensive. So I've been doing that for 15 years, and we've now participated in over 100 million in paid out claims to veteran families. It's very rewarding, and being a financial guy, we have to rearrange their estates and set up trusts and change ownerships of things and do that so that our veterans can qualify for the benefit. And of course, I started the virtual QB training last year when COVID came into play, and I've been able to train some young quarterbacks and some high school quarterbacks out in Iowa, in Virginia, some in Florida, all virtually, and they're able to learn what I'm able to give them from my coaching experience with the coaches I played under, give it back to them and really see them improve rather quickly. And this one kid had his video. He sent me his 3-step drop, and he had his white socks pulled up to his knees and his green shorts, and a white shirt that was old, a hole in it, with his hair all poofy up, puffed out. And when I sent him the critique videos and the correctional videos, the next videos they made for him, he had his hat on backwards. He's got a towel draped down the side. He's got, just looking sharp and just a complete different type of player just after the first round of correctional type videos for him. So it's been fun to be able to have that impact on quarterbacks, and want to be able to give that knowledge that was given to me back to whomever I can. But I've got to do it individually. I can't. My training is customized for that specific quarterback. It's not a open. Here's how you play quarterback type. Read this book. Turn to page 3. I look at their films. I watch their films. I watch their games with them. I critique them. I show them things that, in my opinion, would not otherwise learn because it wasn't taught to me until my 4th and 5th year of college.
Cool.
Good job, man. Good job.
Thank you, guys.
So, you have any shout outs for any former coaches or teammates that help you along your journey?
You know who I want to give a shout out to, because I always forget, is my boy Chris Askew at UCF. He was a long snapper, and he was a darn good long snapper, and he didn't get a lot of playing time for different reasons, but we all thought he should have gotten a lot more playing time. But he was one of the guys, and Chris Askew, but he always gets mad at me because I forget him. So I want to make sure I mention him today. But all my UCF friends and family in South Carolina and Garden City, and my guys down there in Miami High, just phenomenal groups of players and men that you can look back on and say, wow, I was a part of that team and that team. And when you go through a season with a team, you become close. And to this day, they'll send me videos of their kids. They're playing quarterback, and what should I do here and what should I do there? And I try to help them out as much as I can. So my one shout out would be to Chris Askew, the long snapper. What's up, Chris? We hope you're doing well. He's got about 5 or 6 kids now. Good luck with that. Hello, Danielle, his wife. And Chris is a good guy, and he was a long snapper, and he deserves a little recognition.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
So do you have any advice for the youth before we head out?
Become a doctor. No, just kidding. I'm only playing. Just my advice is that football is such a serious game that if you're playing at a young age, make sure that when you step out onto that field, your mind is focused 100% of the time on football, and you're not wandering and you're not thinking about other things, because that's when you'll get hurt. Right. And you have to be focused 100% of the time and really make sure that there's no games being played. I mean, I'm not saying don't go out there and have a good time, but make sure you're focused 100% of the time and that you're mentally prepared. Watch film, be ready for these games, out prepare your opponent, and you'll play better. You'll let your athletic ability take over when you know what you're doing. A lot of quarterbacks we see these days, they drop back, they hit their 5th step, and they're not quite sure what to do with the football. And, they'll end up running or throwing it away or getting sacked or, get the ball out of your hands. The longer you hold the ball, the more bad things are going to happen.
That's right.
Get that ball to those playmakers, get them to your guys, get it out of your hand and get it to those guys and let them do their thing and score points and make big plays. But make sure you're focused every time you step out on that football field, 100% of the time, so that you play better, you don't develop bad habits, and you reduce the chances of getting injured.
Man,
I got 2 quick questions before we head out. Who's your top 5 quarterbacks, and what was your favorite music to listen to before a game?
Top 5 quarterbacks. Well, I grew up in Miami, so Marino was number 1. But then after he retired, I became a Brett Favre fan. So it was Favre, Marino. But then Brady has taken the cake. What he's done there at in the NFL just is baffling. And he was a play or 2 away from having a perfect season. On top of that, Tom Brady. Of course, I always liked Dante Culpepper and Drew Brees. But the Montanas and the guys like that. But as far as throwing the football, actually throwing the football, if you watch those Marino clips of him throwing the football, winning Super Bowls, but he could fire that thing, and he threw it a little bit differently than a lot of the other guys. He was my favorite growing up. Favre, Marino,
he was
Brady.
mine too. Yep.
Those were the guys back in the day. So I would have to, say Marino, Brady, and Brett Favre. Of course, I love Troy Aikman too, and Randall Cunningham was another favorite of mine, and Warren Moon was another favorite of mine. Those guys could throw the ball, and Drew Brees, because he's about my height, and I actually played against him and got to speak with him when he came into UCF. We played against Purdue, and another great athlete and role model for folks out there, and there really are some great ones, and just happy to be a part of it.
All right. So what was your favorite music growing up, coming into a game? What was your go-to music playlist before a game?
I had Tiger, man. That's what it was.
Eye of the Tiger was a good one. I like that Rocky IV soundtrack.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, so I have a sister that was 2 years older than me. So growing up, I always listened to the girl music, not even knowing that I was listening to girl music, growing up. But before a game, I would like something. It didn't matter, to be honest with you. It didn't matter what I wanted to listen to, because Darren Hambrick wore number 18 and I wore number 17, and he was going to play his music anyway, and I was going to hear his music anyway.
Yeah.
And, but he would get you pumped up, and he'd get you fired up, and he would say, "Crank up that diesel," woo! And he'd get that whole locker room fired up. But
What's up, man?
I was always into the Rocky music, the music where you had to have the heart, and you had to keep fighting until the end and win at the end.
It's a war out there, man.
Exactly, it is, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, the parents, that if your child is playing Xbox on Saturday while the games are on, don't let him play football, because he's going to get his head knocked off by the kid who's not playing Xbox, who's watching those games.
That's it.
And he can get hurt, And so I'm very, in tune with, should this child even be playing quarterback before I charge the family any money to train him? Because I don't want the kid to get hurt. And I've seen kids get paralyzed and, at very young ages, and it's just very serious sport. So make sure that they're doing the right thing by placing their child in football.
Man, that's
cool.
good. Nice.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show, Vic. The legendary quarterback.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
K.
I've been watching your shows, and you guys do a great job. Best of luck to you, and thanks again for thinking of me and having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem. Love to have you back on anytime.
Yes, sir. Be in touch.
For everybody that's watching, thank you for watching. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Deezer. You have just watched another edition of the Sports Shop 27. I'm your host, Jermaine Coulter. I'd like to thank my co-host, Kevin Johnson, KJ, and today's special guest, former University of Central Florida quarterback and University of South Carolina, Vic Penn. All right. Until next time, guys, be safe. It's not how you start, it's how you what, KJ?
It's how you finish, man. So keep going.
All right, cool. All right, make sure you guys wear your mask, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
No problem.